Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
It's safe to say we have all heard of someone who's in desperate need of a life-saving organ transplant, but many people spend months, if not years, on waiting lists hoping that a compatible donor will come along. Now, it's no secret there's a shortage of these desperately needed organs. But in some countries, for the right price, you can purchase these organs on the black market. There's kind of a wink that you won't ask where these organs have come from. Human traffickers are notorious for targeting people who are desperate to leave their third world countries, for instance. But China, in particular, offers organs on demand to organ tourists, people who come from Western countries to get these life-saving organ transplants. But where do they come from? Where do they get this endless supply of organs on demand? Now, experts say that the government has secretly turned to the prison population as its source to fill this growing demand. These are so-called prisoners of conscience. So it sounds totally unbelievable, too unbelievable to be true, but dozens of highly respected investigators, scholars, and government officials around the world claim that the Chinese government is harvesting organs from groups considered to be political or cultural enemies of the regime that's currently in power. My guest today is Mitchell Nicholas Gerber. He is an activist. He's dedicated his life to help expose and stop this most brutal persecution, human rights atrocity that is happening here in China. The state-mandated and state-endorsed forced live organ harvesting of the Falun Gong spiritual movement. I mean, this is just, Mitchell, you've been trying to get in contact with me for quite some time, and a lot of people, when they hear this, it just sounds totally unbelievable, but you've really dedicated your life to exposing this. You've got so much facts to back this up, and it's really kind of coming out there in the public eye. Thank you so much for being with us. So explain to us a little bit, what is the Falun Gong movement and, what has happened with them?
Well, first of all, Leanne, thank you so much. I take my hat off to Infowars, Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson for allowing me to expose even more about this new form of genocide occurring against such a spiritual, innocent group of people who practice these 4 or 5 exercises, slow-moving, easy to work with, and free exercises that really do tremendous health and well-being and improvement for the body. Falun Gong became the largest spiritual movement in all of communist China, where 1 out of every 12 national citizens, by 1998, 100 million were practicing, estimates of the Chinese government, were practicing in all walks of life. Even the families of the highest Politburo members were practicing, military generals, lawyers, politicians, from the highest to the lowest classes. And the philosophy of Falun Gong is just deeply rooted in 3 universal principles: truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. This became the opiate of the Chinese people, and by 1998 gained worldwide respect, and in China the respect it deserved because of its incredible health benefits. But unfortunately, by 1999, the then military dictator Jiang Zemin, who is now coined the evil head of the communist regime in China, out of jealousy and hatefulness, banned the practice and outlawed it, and are killing them for their organs.
Wow. And of course, we see the Chinese Communist Party, just total overreach there. Any spiritual faith that goes against the state, that the state cannot control. There was a recent article about them actually trying to control reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, so that the Dalai Lama couldn't be born outside. Only the Chinese Communist Party could decide who the new Dalai Lama could be, because they don't want anyone's thought to be outside of the state. Just total control. They're very dangerous. So talk to people about this forced organ harvesting. What is it all about? And you have coined this, or it's being coined as a new kind of evil that has not existed on this planet before.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, just to speak of a comment from Jiang Zemin, who was the military dictator. A lot of people talk about Mao Zedong being the most evil in China, but it's actually Jiang Zemin, the former military dictator, who is now being sued in China. A very serious movement that is going on also called Quit the Communist Party is also being commencing in China. But basically, the Jiang Zemin ordered towards Falun Gong, ruin their reputations, bankrupt them financially, and destroy them physically. And if they are killed, just claim that they died from suicide. There has been, between 1/4 of China's gross domestic profit for the last 16 plus years to eradicate Falun Gong, wipe them out completely. And Dr. Ethan Gutmann, basically an investigative journalist, award-winning, and David Mattis and David Kilgore, the Secretary of State, the former Secretary of State to the Asian Affairs to the Canadian Parliament, and David Mattis, international human rights lawyer, confirmed that the allegations of forced organ harvesting were commencing between 2001 and 2006. Their figures at that time were about 60,000. They've just released another 600-page report when they visited the Congress in the United States, where the House of Representatives unanimously voted to stop and urge the communist regime to stop the organ harvesting. In the 600-page report, they have confirmed that there are at least hundreds of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners that have been killed every year. As Alex pointed out last night on his video, of Falun Gong just sent to death camps, their organs cut out of their bodies while alive, the organs then sold, and the bodies then burned in the crematories and the ovens and then sold off to the body exhibitions that you and Margaret were talking about last night on your video about communist China. And this is a new form of evil that hasn't occurred on such a scale, scope, and magnitude in history before in our lifetimes. And from an admission of a former wife by a military surgeon who removed corneas from the living bodies of 2,000 Falun Gong practitioners, she said, "You don't understand my agony. Those Falun Gong practitioners were alive. It might be easier for me if they were dead, but they were alive." The testimony from David Mattis was that a lot of people have heard about organ harvesting around the world, but he quoted that China is not the only country with organ transplant abuse. But what's different is that China is institutionalized. It's a state-run and it's pretty party-directed. It's not a few just criminals in a back alley trying to make things make a fast buck. So when I came to understand about this, I really gave and devoted my almost 15 years of my life with so many different people around the world to expose this. And more and more is coming out now, which is undeniable evidence, as reported by David Kilgore and David Mattis in their book called Bloody Harvest, as well as Ethan Gutmann, The Slaughter. And I hope you have them on your show sometime.
Yeah, well, I know the more we get this out, the more people are going to be interested in this story. And then obviously there's a documentary just released, a movie's coming out as well. And one of the key players in the movie is this tech worker who's there to China, and he's working on being able to build China's internet censorship. So we're seeing how they've, for at least more than a decade, have really prop themselves up to not be exposed. Obviously, we know the real fake news media would never talk about anything like this because they don't want to upset China. We see how upset they got over Trump's Taiwan phone call. But so there is evidence of this, as the bodies exhibit has had to put signs outside of the exhibit alerting people to where these bodies actually came from. In 2014, the Chinese government announced that they were going to no longer harvest organs from prisoners who had been executed. But according to Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting, they say the data shows organ donations in China have actually increased. So how is that even happening? How do they have organs on demand? It's just totally outrageous. So we only have about a minute left, Mitchell. Could you please tell people briefly what can they do to help, and where can they go, and any kind of final words of encouragement?
Yes, if I could just grab through the screen to just grab their attention and allow them to know that they can go to stoporganharvesting.org, endorganpillaging.org, read David Kilgore and David Mattis's report online called Bloody Harvest. Also, Ethan Gutmann's report in The Slaughter. This is going on, it's undeniable, and to fail to expose evil and to fail to support good is unacceptable. So I thank you, Leanne, and I thank Paul Joseph Watson and Alex Jones and the whole Infowars team for allowing me to come on and share more about stopping this brutality, and that Falun Gong is a good practice and that shouldn't be persecuted. But if you just go to stoporganharvesting.org, or endorganpillaging.org, everything is there, precise, accurate, and credible, and people will learn the truth absolutely.
Mitchell Nicholas Gerber, thank you so much for your activism, and we will definitely be having you back to expose this atrocity even further. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne.
In case you haven't heard, Infowars has become the most influential media outlet in America. We're making freedom go viral. And now we are proud to announce a new weapon in the epic battle against the globalists. Infowars Prime, where you can watch live high-definition feeds of The Alex Jones Show, plus exclusive insider videos from the Infowars crew and behind-the-scenes action. Go to Infowars.com/app and download today. Infowars Prime is available right now for your iPhone or Android. You will have access to exclusive videos that you can't see anywhere else. And that means live coverage of events and breaking news on location as it happens. You can also take advantage of amazing deals from the Infowars store that are only available for Infowars Prime subscribers. That's Infowars Prime at Infowars.com/app. And if you can hear my voice, you are the resistance.